Under the bright sun, I finally arrived at my new home. Lee San-vu. The house was massive. I was honestly stunned. A worker was waiting, surprised I'd arrived early. Walking inside, I felt eyes on me. Dangerous men. But I knew their type all too well. Their stares didn't faze me. In my room, the worker offered help if I needed anything. The first thing I saw was a giant cat skin creepy. And as I'd been warned, the owner, Y-Bomb, was a dangerous man. Suddenly, a suffocating, sharp stench hit me. I nearly puked. I looked for the source and found him. My first meeting with the man I'd be stuck with. So, my life in the tiger's den started. I politely greeted the worker downstairs, but got nothing back. She just kept working. Silence. I hadn't eaten since yesterday morning, and I was starving. I risked asking for more food. As I stood, she just told me to leave the dishes. She said they'd be cleared later, but when I pushed for more food, she told me to sit. Her mood was off, but I didn't care. At least I was finally getting something to eat. I'd asked for a bigger portion, but looking at my plate, she'd given me the same tiny amount. It was barely enough to survive. Just then, a stranger walked in, asking for some document. He froze, noticing me. He flashed a nasty grin and asked if I was the boy meant to give birth, the surrogate Omega. He was spot on. Suddenly, I felt an intense, predatory curiosity from him. He wanted to know everything about me. He was practically dripping with pheromones. It made me sick. I couldn't stand it. His subordinate was annoyed by my reaction, accusing me of acting like that, just because I was carrying the elder's child. But honestly, if a low-level thug like him tried to support me, he'd go broke in days. Everything I'd eaten came right back up. This pregnancy is making me sensitive to everything. I wondered if I'd even make it to bed tonight. Something was wrong with these people. They really seemed to hate pregnant guys. Then, my phone rang. It was my grandmother, the person I love most. I answered, excited. She asked if I'd eaten and how my husband was. I had to lie and say he was wonderful. In reality, I was just a surrogate for a powerful gang boss, all to pay off the crushing gambling debts my father left behind. I was lucky to be a dominant Omega. At a normal job, I'd be paying this off for 20 years, but I did it in 5. I settled the debt, but when I visited Grandma, she looked so much older. I had no choice but to take this deal. It was the only way to give her a better life. The truth would break her heart. She worries too much, so tomorrow I'll tell her I'm living the high life with a rich husband. That night, I snuck into the kitchen for a snack. I was starving, turns out. Being pregnant makes you incredibly impatient. I started raiding the fridge for something no one would notice was gone. Found a pre-packed meal. Didn't taste great, but I kept looking. Then I realized I wasn't alone. The man of the house wanted to know who was picking through his fridge. Without thinking, I told him I was the new resident and that I was pregnant. I mentioned my room upstairs and apologized for being down there. He relaxed a bit, though he still looked suspicious. I explained I just needed a bite and was heading back. But looking at the father of my child, I realized no one told me he was this handsome. He stopped looking like a killer and turned on the lights, even though I thought I was about to get beaten for my boldness. The next morning, he ate a hearty breakfast before heading to work. Ajuma kept working. Once done, he told her to bring me down to eat. Soon after, I hesitantly greeted him, the father of my child. I had no clue what was going on. He was staring at me with pure hate, like he wanted to kill me. If I knew, I would have skipped breakfast. But I was genuinely starving, and the food actually tasted amazing. Suddenly, I caught that same sharp scent again. The subordinate walked in looking for the boss, And just like that, my symptoms flared up. I felt just as terrible as the day before. Nausea hit him hard whenever he was near. Coming home, he overheard their chatter, though honestly he couldn't care less. So he went up to the assistant, asked to eat upstairs, and promised to bring the dishes back later. She scoffed, saying Lee San-woo was just sick asking for food again. It was honestly so embarrassing for him. But hunger doesn't just quit. She sighed, got it, and prepped his breakfast anyway. Before he made it to his room, he felt that piercing gaze. The master. As he hit the second floor, a sudden scent of lime caught him off guard, the boss's pheromones. Sharp, sure, but no headache this time. Actually, the nausea was gone. Who knew a guy that intimidating would smell like citrus? It just didn't fit his fearsome vibe. Once the pregnant boy reached his room, the boss lashed out at his subordinate, growling that he clearly hadn't understood the orders. Looking at the boy's face, he definitely wasn't hungry. The food looked cheap and sad. Lee San-woo seemed so innocent, but the world had already been cruel. The master's furious glare shifted away from the subordinate and locked onto the worker. She knew that look all too well. Breakfast over, Lee San-woo figured it was time to return the dishes. He hoped the boss was gone so he could slip down safely. Nope, not his lucky day. That towering figure loomed there, and fear just paralyzed him. He couldn't scream, but his eyes said it all. After a few tense, silent seconds, the terror faded, replaced by an odd urge to apologize to the child, because there stood its father. Still, why was he staring so hard? Was he mad about the dishes? To avoid a disaster, he thought about faking a stomach ache. Suddenly, the boss told him to back up. Yibom, the gangster leader, started cleaning the broken shards so the boy wouldn't get hurt. That unexpected kindness really touched him, even if he was still terrified. He mentioned the assistant, and she appeared instantly, ready to scrub. While cleaning, the boss flashed a faint smile and remarked that he'd heard the boy was from Noblesse. Noblesse, the VIP wing of the casino where he used to escort. Your price depended on your performance. Lee San-woo wasn't shocked. The man wanted something, so he figured he'd just be direct, explaining that since he was pregnant, he couldn't do everything, but for the right price, he could arrange something. The man let out a loud laugh. The price the boy named was so low, it clearly amused the boss. The boy added a request for some plums. That did it, the man shook on the deal. Doing a job for plums? The boss found it absurdly intriguing. Still, he didn't make Lee San-woo work for it yet, mainly because there were no plums. The boy was surprised. He would have started any time if needed. Before leaving, the boss asked if it was a girl. Alone again, the boy wondered if craving plums meant he was carrying a daughter. Evening came, and as usual, he was starving. His portion was tiny again. How did they cook here? He usually needed 2 bowls to be full, but asking for seconds got him weird looks. Everyone else couldn't be eating this little, especially the master, who ate plenty. Hearing footsteps outside, he realized it was go time. It was Yibom, probably here to collect. He just hoped the man would leave once they were finished. The boss decided his partner was pretty cute and he needed to hold back, suggesting they eat first. Seeing the actual plums piqued the boy's interest, but he'd have to wait to eat. They headed downstairs. Descending, Lee San-woo waited for the inevitable. From the corner of his eye, he saw expensive supermarket fruits, but that didn't matter now. Yibom was ready. After they finished, the man told him to take the plums and follow. They headed to the kitchen. While the man was busy, the boy checked his payment. Looking at the total, it was clear there was an extra 0. No plum cost that much. Looks like his kid had a generous father. That thought warmed his heart. He started savoring the fruit. Seeing his delight, the boss told him to slow down. The fruit wasn't going anywhere. When asked if they could do this tomorrow, Lee San-woo agreed immediately. This time, he asked for money and noodles, even though he could eat noodles whenever he wanted. But the assistant insisted instant noodles were bad for his figure, so he couldn't have them yet. The boss offered some noodles, and soon a subordinate arrived in the kitchen. He greeted the protagonist with polite respect. This was Kim Jong-sok. He already knew the drill and simply asked how many packs the boss wanted. Y-Bomb wasn't sure, so he suggested 3 for the pregnant boy. My protagonist, Lee San-woo, beamed at the thought. But then he panicked. Did he just smile too broadly, too openly? He worried he'd get punished for being foolish, so he quickly dialed it back, asking for just 1 pack instead. He usually ate 2, plus he'd already snacked on plums. His request left the boss genuinely surprised. It was just too little. The subordinate agreed, and that confirmation filled him with relief. He didn't have to hold back after all. Kim Jong-sok took his leave once the meal was ready. And finally, Lee San-woo got to enjoy his long-awaited craving. Watching that pure, childlike joy, the boss grew curious. Would he sell even this fleeting moment of happiness? He asked about that smile. Y-Bomb found it strangely fascinating and wondered what it would cost to buy it. My boy couldn't name a price, so he offered it for free, suggesting the boss just drop by whenever he was eating plums. If he took money, he feared losing the freedom to smile like that. The gangster boss loved that idea. His reaction brought that same sincere smile back. The next morning, Lee San-woo woke up feeling rested, sleeping better than he had in ages. The elder was already waiting. As they locked eyes, Y-Bomb noted that the moon was still visible even though it was morning. For some reason, the boy's skin looked soft, and the boss brazenly asked what it would cost to rub his cheeks. That caught him off guard, especially since he wasn't sure what part was being touched. But once clarified, he realized that question should have stayed unasked. Still, he trusted the man had his reasons. Since his father died, Lee San-woo hadn't gone a day without cursing him. His father was garbage, and he hated him, but he wanted the baby inside him to love its father. Hatred is just too exhausting. Anyway, a few touches? He didn't mind. The boss took it as gratitude and told him to ask if he ever wanted anything. Sitting in the attic all day had to be boring. After requesting roasted duck, the man promised to call after work so he could come down. But breakfast worried him. Usually he got small portions with rice, but now, just plain vegetables. Apparently, the worker heard Lee San-woo was going out with the boss later, so she kept it light. Then she asked if he'd eaten the noodles last night. After he confirmed it, she snapped, angrily pointing out that he should snack when hungry before the director arrived, and that eating the noodles was disrespectful. Truth is, the president allowed it, implying she had no shame herself. Unexpectedly, a deep, menacing voice cut through from behind, declaring that he, the boss, gave the order to eat, and if there was a problem, talk to him directly. It was Y-Bomb, who should have been at work. The woman stammered, claiming she was only trying to be attentive and acted out of good intentions. Sensing her excuses were weak, she shot a desperate look at the protagonist. Right then, nausea surged, forcing him to flee the kitchen. Shortly after, the president followed to help. The citrus scent helped settle his stomach. When asked what caused the reaction, Lee San-woo guessed maybe the baby didn't want to hear them arguing. That amused the man, who offered a light smile, remarking that if the child were his, petty things like that wouldn't bother it at all. He added that, if anything, the child was probably just like Lee San-woo. That realization hit hard. He couldn't let his child turn into him. Watching his reaction, the boss tried to help, gently placing a hand on the boy's face. Weebom told him to blow his nose, which only made the pregnant boy laugh. The president then decided to fulfill the promise he'd mentioned earlier. Honestly, nobody would have minded if he'd just done it for free. As the sun set, right on cue, the landlord called his tenant. He'd be there in 30 minutes, so he told him to get ready and head down. Naturally, the boy obeyed, rushing to get himself together. He put on a decent shirt, figuring that would be enough. He also wondered if his grandmother had eaten. As soon as she answered, she asked how he was doing. He explained his situation, mentioning he had a large sum of money that he wanted to send to her for support. He spent a few minutes convincing her she needed it and why he couldn't just give the money back. A knock at the door signaled it was time to end the call. As their eyes met, Weebom complimented him, saying Lee San-vu looked incredibly handsome. Time to go. The landlord booked the entire restaurant for us. Not a soul in sight. Just us. I enjoyed the meal anyway. Weibo watched me, clearly happy to see me finally eating. I couldn't stop eating. When he teased me, asking if the food beat my home cooking, I stumbled. He just laughed. It was all in good fun. Still, I admitted that out of everyone, working with him felt the most satisfying. His eyes lit up. He wanted to know when we could make this official. Without a clear answer, we headed to the doctor together. When the doctor asked for my scent, I said lemon. Turns out, we are a perfect match. Suddenly, he said my name Lee San-vu so coldly. I panicked, thinking I had messed up, but he just wanted a reaction. Since we were done eating, he suggested a walk. It had been forever since I'd been out, so I agreed. We strolled along until a strange-looking tree caught my eye. Weibo didn't notice I'd stopped at first. I was lagging behind, probably looking like a tired old man. He just chuckled and told me to take my time. Then his mood shifted. Some guy had the nerve to walk right up to me. This stranger didn't even hide it, saying I was his type and asking for my number. I felt sick instantly. His pheromones hit me like a wave sharp, nasty, and suffocating. He had no idea who was standing behind me. A much stronger, scarier presence. I, of course, was stunned. Weibo's lime scent crushed that stranger's aroma in seconds. A few harsh words from him and that guy bolted. Now that we were alone, I started wondering when would this belly actually start to show. I guessed in a few months. Weibo didn't look happy about the weight. He basically wanted to claim me right now. So stubborn and intense. I asked why he called the baby that, but he admitted it was just a random thought. Still, we could find a better name later. I told him we'd go with whatever he picked. He chose Duckling. I didn't mind, honestly. It sounded kind of cute. He beamed, calling this our first date. Then, he got curious about a bath. Soon enough, we were in the water. He noticed I didn't have any body hair. I'd been an escort, shaving was just part of the job. But my look seemed to please him. He asked me to sleep in his room. I panicked and refused. It felt way too awkward. Plus, I talk in my sleep, and I didn't want to ruin his rest. He laughed, admitting he kicks in his sleep too. So, I got my own room. But the next morning, something felt weird beside me. It was him. He'd snuck in because I didn't answer his knocking. My confused face only seemed to make him more intense. He wanted to handle things before the pregnancy progressed. Keep me safe from idiots like that guy. He clearly didn't want anyone else getting close, but that talk could wait. We settled on rice cakes for breakfast, maybe more if we were still hungry. I realized then just how attentive he really was. How had I missed that before? He left for work, leaving me alone. I spotted a stack of cash on the table, probably for all the times he owed me. I had the whole day to myself, just sleep or eat. Later, a worker asked if I wanted a special dinner with him, but I told her no. I was happy just waiting for him to come home. Sunset came and went. I was starting to worry, fighting my own nerves. I knew if I saw him now, I wouldn't be able to hide how I felt. I prayed he wouldn't come back too early, just so I could pull myself together. Those rice cakes wouldn't be enjoyed tonight. Just as that sank in, my phone rang, but it wasn't Y-Bomb. It was Grandma, somehow wide awake. I asked why she was calling so late, and she mentioned a strange dream. She saw me flying with a diamond in my mouth, a sign of good luck. She even joked about buying a lottery ticket. When I explained things with my husband, she told me to just wait. If life was tough, there was a reason. She reminded me that Y-Bomb gave us security. She asked how I was doing, saying how much she missed us both. She urged me to stay healthy. 15 minutes ticked by with no word from him. Every second felt like an eternity. Then, 10 minutes to midnight, I heard footsteps. They stopped right outside my room. I rushed out without a second thought. There he was, the man I'd been waiting for all night. Seeing him apologize, tears welled up in my eyes. But these weren't sad tears, they were pure relief. I started to change for dinner, but he stopped me. Said it wasn't necessary, we were just going for a quick drive. He'd brought food, just like he promised. But his hands were stained, and that definitely wasn't tomato juice. A sharp scent of lemon tried to mask the metallic smell of blood, but I knew what it was. He needed a shower, clearly. He told me to eat while he cleaned up. I didn't argue, I was absolutely starving. Soon he was back, teasing me to slow down. The food wasn't running away. He loves how I look, he says. I hate it when he calls me cute, he knows that, right? He asked if I'd been waiting long. I admitted I had, but told him it didn't matter now. Still, he had something on his mind. I had a hunch what it was. I was partly right, but he didn't want to ruin dinner with talk. He leaned in for a kiss instead. I agreed, obviously, but at the last second, I hesitated, so he just took the lead and kissed me anyway. My face was burning. We got back to dinner. Noticing my quiet mood, he apologized for being late again. His apology caught me off guard, but I appreciated it. Then he pointed out that I hadn't called him today. Nobody had checked in. He said if I didn't want the father of my child coming home late, I should just call him. I thought maybe he'd just left his phone behind. He gently teased me for not worrying enough when I didn't hear from him. We agreed to do better about checking in. It makes sense, really. After dinner, we went for a walk. Seeing him out of his suit and casual clothes, he looked even more handsome. I started daydreaming what if he had a normal, boring job. We walked to his car. Sitting in the passenger seat, it felt just like a real date. I knew it wasn't, but as we cruised through the city, I couldn't stop wishing it were. I've lived in a small village my whole life. I never imagined the city could look this beautiful. At a red light, he let me know what he wanted. I got the hint and gave him what he was after. He wasn't having it, though. Reminded me dinner was over, save my energy, he said. He wanted something more romantic. I couldn't say no to him. We reached a quiet spot by the sea. It was his favorite place. We stepped out to take it all in. I wandered off while he watched from the car. Even in the dark, I felt fine on my own. He was thinking about how intimate we'd been here before. He wanted that again. He seemed happy just watching me enjoy myself, though he'd never actually tell me that. He meant to call me back if I went too far. But to his surprise, I started walking back on my own. He asked if I was scared of the dark. I told him I wasn't. I'm a man, after all. He was genuinely shocked. He let out a deep laugh. It was the first time I'd ever talked back like that. Our stroll was over. Back in the car, He suggested we do things like real men. I agreed, and he looked totally stunned. He really didn't expect me to go along with it so easily. Plus, I told him I wanted to come back. Maybe even tomorrow night. I'd love to spend all my free time here after I visit Grandma, of course. I haven't seen her in a while, but for now, it was time to do what he does best. Hours flew by. We could sleep later. First, he wanted to show me something. What I saw stayed with me forever. Never seen anything like it. At 20, I thought my life was just on repeat. But then Y-Bomb gave me a gift, something I'll treasure like a priceless gem. He shared a moment I'd never experienced. Then, with a sly grin, he teased that he didn't know I liked such nonsense. I thought it was sweet, honestly. But being woken up just for that comment, a little annoying, I won't lie. I shot back that if he looked in a mirror, he might find something even prettier. We both nearly cracked up. Trying not to laugh was tough, but the humor died down fast as I started wondering, is this kind of vibe even right for us? We aren't exactly dating. The silence that followed felt heavy. The lighthearted mood just vanished. Y-Bomb didn't like that tension, so he took charge. He whispered that it was incredible, not the sunrise, but the way my face was burning red. He almost asked if I was blushing because of our first night together. I denied it, but deep down, I realized, yeah, maybe people do blush after that. Back home, I was too drained to even bathe. He told me to just relax and let him handle things. Then he got ready, skipping breakfast to head to work. I'd hoped not to eat alone, but what could I do? I really wanted to ask Y-Bomb to stay. Just have a drink with me before leaving, but for some reason, I couldn't bring myself to be that needy. My sad look didn't slip by him. The president couldn't just walk away, so he started making noise to get my attention. His playful act actually cheered me up, and since I was serving him, he insisted on only eating meat. Before he left, he said I'd better be ready for our adventures when he returned. It left me with a weird, uneasy feeling. The guy has zero table manners, clearly. I'll have to teach him some. Before heading out, why? Bomb decided to make sure I'd be waiting for him. A single kiss, and all my resolve just melted away. After we ate, I thanked him as usual. Then, out of nowhere, the phone started ringing. It was the man who'd just left. I didn't even think, just rushed to find a quiet spot to talk. The reason was simple. He'd forgotten to ask about dinner plans. Even at 25, I felt like I was losing my head like a total fool. Y-Bomb seemed genuinely happy just chatting like this. Even the driver noticed the boss seemed brighter lately. After thinking it over, the president wondered maybe he should check if he could have another child. Either way, I was waiting, just counting the minutes until he came home. That evening, I couldn't keep my eyes open. But that didn't seem to bother Y-Bomb one bit. He could just lie down beside me. Sometimes I act like an old soul, but when I'm sleeping, I look like a child to him. He wanted to wake me up, but decided to let me rest. After all, since I was a kid, I'm the first person he's ever truly wanted to make happy.